guess this is what I'm doing right now, is just watching all these airplanes go by. Actually just left a meeting and I love this view over the bay and I wanted to share it with you today. Pretty cool. Hi friends, how's everybody doing? I hope you're having an awesome day. Isn't this beautiful behind me? I'm over here in Burlingame, California. I just left the client's office and wanted to shoot a quick video for you because recently I just got back from my industry's trade show. It was an awesome event. There's about 1,500 booths that are there, and I went into this trade show differently than I ever have in the past 16 years that I've been attending trade shows for my industry. This is the largest one in our industry, and I decided this year that before I went, I was going to research what everyone was saying the trends were going to be for this year in retail and other spaces, and I wanted to see if my manufacturers were on trend, if they were bringing this hot, cool stuff that everybody wanted, and I wasn't disappointed. They definitely were. I also decided when I was walking the trade show, I was really going to pay attention to how the booths were set up. I was going to pay attention to what was drawing me in, what was turning me off, what were they doing to entice me to want to talk to them. My name is Shauna Anderson-Newt, president of Spitfire Advertising. I help my clients build deeper relationships, build and create these unique experiences to grow their business. And most of my clients do trade shows, so I thought this was definitely something that you all needed in your life, needed to hear, needed to see. So I wanted to share my experiences with you to help you up your game. So as I was walking the show floor, like I said, 1,500 plus booths. It's huge. It's overwhelming. It's a 3-day show, and then we do 2 days of education classes. A lot, right? It's a lot. But what I noticed is the booths that had these open layouts where it was easy to navigate, where I could just walk in and I didn't feel like I was confined or it was claustrophobic because there's a ton of people that attend there. So to walk into these booths, you know, it's hard when it's a really tight space. The openness there, when the people who work there were smiling and friendly and say, hey, you know, what do you need help with, or what can I help you with, or what do you want to look at, or, you know, who's your target audience, helping me to sell their products, that was awesome. But as I was walking the floor, I noticed that there were certain booths that really caught my attention. One of them, I walked around the corner and this booth had a huge, probably 25 foot wall, and it was all superhero themed. And I was like, well, that's interesting. It doesn't look like everybody else here at the expo. And everybody there was smiling. They had their value statement, which I thought was awesome, up on the wall, their benefit statement, and it was written in language that's what's in it for me. What's in it that I would want to stop and talk to them. On that booth, it said, we print on almost any product, no minimums, no setups. And I was like, what? Because I run into this sometimes with my clients, as you know, if you're one of my clients, where your budget is low on something and you're like, hey, I need something that's you know, in this price point, and it can't have this and it can't have that, or we want to print on this surface and it's not something that is typical in my industry, and I don't give up easy, so I try really hard to always, you know, accommodate and help my clients and come up with really cool, unique things. And I was like, wow, this is a new vendor for me. This could solve some of my problems sometimes that I run into. So I talked to them and they were amazing. They were amazing. They had a superhero cutout. You take a picture. They had an Instagram selfie frame, which was fun. Their business card stood out from everybody else's. In fact, when I wanted to contact them after I got back, I had a huge pile of business cards. And because theirs was this fun shirt shape with a cool imprint, I didn't even have to search through that pile. It stood out. So I was like, these guys got it going on. I love it. It was their first time exhibiting there. I thought they did an amazing job. One of the other booths I loved was one of my lip balm manufacturers, and they had a camp theme. So their staff was dressed up as camp counselors. They had this little tiny tent and a little campfire, and the graphics in the booth was all this whole camp theme. They had dice that had different animals on it, like that you would find in the forest, like, bunnies and bears and stuff, and all these different colors. And you'd roll the dice, and when you rolled the dice, you won a prize. So that was fun. It was fun. It was engaging. It was totally memorable. There was another exhibitor who had a VW bus they brought in. Yes, they actually brought the bus in. It was in their booth. They had it filled with their products. They do bags that are really cool bags. They had it filled with their products, hanging off the side windows, or the side mirrors. It was a lot of fun. Definitely got attention. I mean, you're walking by and you're like, is that a VW bus? Yes, that is. It was really cool. And then there was another company that probably had the most beautiful booth. It looked like you were in a high-end shop. Pastels were really hot this year. All their products they had was in pastels. It was open. They had a lot of white. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Like, you walk by and you're like, am I at a trade show? Because this is not something you see at a trade show. They did an amazing, amazing job on that. I also noticed the signage. The companies that had large signage definitely got my attention. So first, the ones that are hanging from the ceiling that are easy to find. So if I knew I was looking for a specific manufacturer and I'm looking around and I saw their big, Bic is one. So they have Bic and they have their huge sign hanging from the ceiling. I was like, there's Bic, that's where I want to go, easy to find. Love that. Had no doubt where their booth was. The other thing I noticed is that if the booths didn't have their name big and at the top of their booth, even if it wasn't hanging from the ceiling, it was harder to figure out. They only had it on a tablecloth. Sometimes I was just like, who is this? I don't know where I'm at right now. Because when I go through, I take a ton of pictures. So I take a picture of the manufacturer I'm at, and then I take pictures of their products. So for me, on my camera roll, when I'm looking back, I have to remember, because there's so many, who I saw what at. Well, if it was hard for me to find their name, that was really annoying to me. I didn't like that at all, so think about that. And in fact, that superhero booth that I just told you about, they said they changed their booth because they had their name lower and people were confused, couldn't figure out who their name was, and so they changed their booth and put their name high up on top and bigger, and now people don't have a problem anymore. So think about that when you're designing your booth. I also, Org Audio went by their booth, which was awesome. You probably saw them on Shark Tanks, you know who they are. They're one of our manufacturers. So their booth, they had one wall. It was a huge wall that you could see from far, far away, and it looked like it was all graffitied, and their name was huge on it, and it looked like a person that was painting it in graffiti at that point. And it was really cool, got your attention. I loved how open their booth was. They only had the back wall, and that's it. And then everybody could just walk around their booth. It had like tables on the sides that were actually like standing height, so I wasn't bending over, which was really nice. Everything was at eye level up on platforms, easy to see. All the information was there. Very, very good job on that one too. I really appreciate that. I also wanted to go by and see one of my favorite manufacturers. It's an umbrella manufacturer, and one of my friends works there who I totally love, so I wanted to go by her booth and see her. And I was a little disappointed because they're an amazing company. And I'm like looking, I knew where their booth was, and I'm walking. I almost walked by because they had one of those tall swooper flags, the ones that you see on the side of the road that's like usually for like a car dealership or a car wash or automotive place or one of those type of areas. That was in their booth, and it had their name on it, and yeah, it was huge, but it was vertical and it blended in with the rest of their booth. So I almost walked by, and then I was like, oh, I wonder who this is selling umbrellas. And I was like, oh, this is where I want to be. So lesson learned, you have to make it stand out. You can't just have it, so it's blending into the rest of your environment. Okay, now looking at the inside of the booth. The inside of the booth is really important too. Besides what we talked about earlier with it being the theme and the openness and all of those other elements, some of the things that I liked inside the booth was how those manufacturers were making it so I was a better salesperson for them. They were giving me ideas. They were giving me ways to sell their products. They were showing me in an easy to digest, because remember, our attention span is less than a goldfish. So they have to make this quick and easy, especially when you're walking a trade show for 3 days. I mean, sometimes it gets redundant. You're like, have I been here? Have I seen this? It was awesome on the manufacturers who showcased their new products, whether that was on a banner and they had it imprinted, like a huge banner imprinted with their new products, or they set up cases that were into their booth that showed the new products. That was so helpful too. The ones that had case studies, the ones that did that showed the trends for the year, that was amazing. The ones that displayed it by category. So some of those were big, huge, tall banners, and then in front of them would be shelves of the products for that category. So it could be golf, it could be safety, it could be health and wellness. Some manufacturers, they had a shelf with the item numbers for that category and then those items on the shelf. That was also helpful to know the item number, be able to take those pictures and move on, because I'm not sitting there writing down all of these things. It's easy to take the picture and move on. Also with displaying the products for a very eye-catching display, which is something that you want, think about how you're displaying your products. Two of my favorite ways was when they would show it in say they had drinkware in 8 different colors they offered. That would be the same glass or the same type of drinkware, and they would show it like a rainbow. So, yellow, orange, red, all the way up to the rainbow colors. And they would show that same glass all the way across, and you're like, wow, that's cool. Or they would show different products, but in one color. So the whole scheme was the same color. So do you understand what I mean? So if I'm looking at this display they had, and they had a bag, and they had a mug, and they had a pen, and they had just different things. They were all in that same royal blue, because each manufacturer usually has like their own color shades. So it was all in this blue, and it looked really cool together. So those things were very eye-catching to me. So remember this as you're putting your trade show booth together. 3 things. You have your booth layout. How are you making it so it's easy to navigate, it's not cluttered, fun, create a theme for it, get people's attention, because you want them to walk in and you want them to feel welcome, and you want them to want to talk to you, find out more about your products, more about your staff too. The second would be the signage, thinking about that big signage, the big name, easy to see at the top of your booth and big. And the third was, how are you displaying things inside your booth to make it easy for your target audience who's attending the show to digest it, to get ideas, to better sell your product or buy from you if they're buying from you. So those are my tips from the trade show that I just did. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Follow us on social media and join our email list, because the email list is where you're going to get this information right away, and you can keep it, you can digest it, you can also get some specials that we don't put anyplace else. To do one more thing for me. If you do nothing else, remember to smile, because happy looks good on you. Have an amazing day.